The actual fact is, there cannot be a country that has not been influenced by British law or UK law. Generally, some people call it the English law. You can't think of a territory, a community that has not been impacted by the British law. And for us, most of us who are students of one cause or the other stemming from UK, it's an essential part of our learning that we have to learn the way of the English law, the principles and the concepts that have been brought in by English law or UK law has actually impacted every professional discipline that has come up not just from UK, from anywhere in the world. So let's take a look at some of them. Now, take a look at some of the fun facts. Yeah, I mean, you know how Sri Lankan parliament talks to people, right? Refer to the people. So for a long time, Sri Lankan parliament didn't even allow children to attend the parliament because of the wonderful language the parliament members of Sri Lanka uses. But take a look at the British Parliament, one of the oldest parliaments in the world, 900 years old, and the experience shows, right? You can't call a member of parliament a liar or something, right? How do you say it? Honorable member is mistaken. Wow. And the speaker, when you appoint the speaker in Sri Lanka, of course, we had speakers dying hard to, try to be the speaker. Some people even faking the qualifications. So they keep the tradition on. And they don't clap, they don't thump the chairs. Actually, British Parliament doesn't have the chairs. Take a look at some YouTube videos, right? They have to say by voice, right? Word, here, here, or yea, yea, right? And the king cannot enter the parliament. British Parliament still sort of commemorate the moment of King Charles I violently entering the British Parliament and arresting some members of the Parliament and imprisoning them in the Tower of London. So you know, as a consequence of that, actually the British Parliament captures the King Charles I, right, and cut his head inside the Parliament itself. Ever since then, the British King, sorry, we call him the King of England and Scotland, is not welcome inside the Parliament unless specifically invited. Yeah, British Parliament functions on unwritten laws. There's no written constitution in Britain. It's all about standards and principles. So they can make any law, they can cancel any law. That's why they say, right? Can turn a man into a woman and a woman into a cat. Wow. And they captured Sri Lanka. That was by the British Parliament. Gave independence to us. That's also by the British Parliament. Customs and cases. Take a look at some. Okay. London Bridge is one of the busiest thoroughfares in UK or London at the moment, but legally you can take a ox or a cow right across it, of course on the feast days. And the right to graze in the town, the old law is still there. The British has these odd laws, right? They still stand today. And next one, yeah, the common law. Common law is technically the law of the common people. It came from the origins of the practices and the traditions of the villagers and the people in different parts of UK. So the common law principles, once a principle is accepted by the UK courts, is applicable right through UK. What's the UK, mind you? It's London, including England and Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, and some of the territories of UK as well, right? Like Belize and like Gibraltar. So British Empire has some remnants left. So even if an odd decision is made by the court, well, that's also applicable everywhere. There's this particular snail in the bottle case, the case I think, where the court, we will be discussing the case later actually. So the court held that even if you did not buy the bottle, if there was something bad in the bottle and that has created an impact on you, you could take legal action even if you did not buy the bottle. Now, this principle is applicable in so many countries in the world, so that it's universal. It started in the UK, but applicable. So the odd cases sometimes, right, play a role in developing global laws. Next one is interesting. You can't steal a corpse, dead body. So no one can claim ownership to a dead body also. This is an odd law, not applicable in Sri Lanka, luckily, but in the UK, yes. Some cases, the earlier cases, this Donahue versus Stevenson. Two friends go to a shop, to cafe, to buy ginger beer, right? So the one friend buys a ginger beer bottle and give it to her friend. It's a friend who gets into trouble when she happened to drink the content and later finds out that there was a decomposed snail in the in the bottle content. Ginger beer comes in opaque bottle, so she could not see it initially. So when she drank half of it and poured the other half into a glass only, she saw the visitor inside the bottle, now dead and decomposed. She took legal action. And there the court said, sorry, the company refused to pay initially. Company said, you did not buy the bottle, so we don't have to pay you for the suffering you got. But there the court came up with a new sort of a precedent, a new analysis of the issue called reasonably foreseeable care. That means a manufacturer, right, has to have a duty not just to the buyer of the product, but also towards a reasonably foreseeable user of the product. That means family members, friends and all. So it was a unique decision that came from Britain in 1932, as you can see, and it has a global application now. So as I said earlier, odd decisions in UK made once upon a time have global implications. Take a look at the next one, Kelly versus Lindsay, a recent case, right? Yeah, the court said UK held that nobody can own a corpse. That's an old law. But many countries don't follow this law, but UK has it. But now see what has happened thereafter. Medical students stole preserved body parts for artistic purposes. Medical students need, the cadavers, the dead bodies for their studies. And the court said, now that's stealing, because they have modified or added stuff into the body to preserve it. So there the court said, now that can be taken as property, because they have changed the state of the body. So sometimes the laws are ludicrous, but once the Supreme Court makes one, it has an application everywhere. So okay, just a dead body you can't steal, but a modified dead body, well, you can steal, and that's a crime. Some of the other cases, take a look at this. Nuisance laws, most of it came from UK and applicable everywhere in the world, including Sri Lanka. So what did the court say here, right? You can take legal action against a neighbor for public nuisance, no question about it, but not for everything. Now here a case of, just someone setting up a tower somewhere has an impact on television reception. Now that has been an impact in Sri Lanka also, right? This telecommunication towers and all. The UK courts have been practical in it. You can't call them as nuisance. You would not be able to have, these communication towers. Take a look at the next one. There was a terrible tragedy in 1990s called the Hillsborough disaster. There are more than around close to 100 young children died in a terrible football stadium tragedy when people got pushed due to overcrowding, and the children who are at the front of, right by the gates, where they could watch the match right close to the gates. At that time there was separation between the standing area and the play area. So these children got pushed into these particular fences. They were all mesh fences or the iron fences. So many died. So some of the police officers took legal action demanding compensation for psychiatric damage that they suffered by seeing this tragedy. The other court said, no, that's your professional duty, your professional rescuers. So the emotional shock you suffer cannot result in claiming damages. Again, applicable everywhere, right? That kind of case. Next one. Yeah, house. So this is pretty much a unique case. There was this particular house that was kind of considered to be haunted house, and the owners of the house actually sold it by putting it in the advertisements also that it's a haunted house, so they may have put some higher price in it. So the buyer buys the house, right? There's a buyer who actually there he says that he found some ghost inside the house. Then he wanted to cancel the sale, the one who bought the house, telling, I bought the house and but there are ghosts in it, so I'm not going to stay in the house, I want to sell it back and I want my money back. But the other court said, no, you said you bought the house knowingly that that there were ghosts in it, because advertisement clearly say it. So with the knowledge only you bought the house, no, now you have actually seen the ghost, now you can't in fact change a contract. So it's probably only one of its kind in the whole world. So UK, the English courts are renowned for these very odd decisions. They may be odd at one moment of time, but there were so many occasions where the world follows those decisions. These are some Scottish rules. Scotland is part of UK. It has a separate court structure. Take a look at. You can convict someone for murder without finding a dead body. You can do it in Sri Lanka. You don't need to find the dead body to take murder conviction in Sri Lanka also. Right? So that's not exactly on odd in Sri Lanka. This one. So some odd laws, the regions have oddities in laws. We'll discuss one of these days odd laws in Sri Lanka as well. So Scotland is pretty popular for salmon fishing during this particular salmon season. So many fish come up the river, so the fishermen capture the fish and make literally a killing out of it, a lot of money out of it. So if you happen to, hold the salmon suspiciously, that's what the law says, as if to run away with the salmon, well, that's a crime. Salmon is a type of fish, okay? Salmon fish we call it. So handle the salmon under suspicious circumstances, right? Looking shifty, not actually stealing, but a state before that. Enough for a crime in Scotland. And bagpipes. Scotland fought for independence fiercely. You can see some of the movies like Bravehearts. So until the 19th century mid, Scots were independent. They time and again fought against the British English rule. So it was a pretty painful history Scottish have had with the British. Even today, there's a sizable minority of Scotland who wants independence from England. Or rather, yeah, that's how, UK. So playing the bagpipe. What's a bagpipe? What you can see our Navy band is playing. So was considered as an act of war, playing this particular musical instrument, because Highland armies rallied for warfare by this particular melancholy voice of this, the noise coming out of the bagpipe. So the law is still there, but now of course the law is less or rather zero utilized, but remember the law is still there. Rights, yeah. Any stranger in Scotland has a right to use any toilet at any home, and very old law. I'm sure the law is not in practice at the moment, though the law is still there. Next one, take a look at, used to be legal to marry just by saying you did. So you don't have to go to the registrar as in Sri Lanka. You could just basically declare yourself married. Scotland is far away from one settlement to the other, one village to the other. It's sparsely populated, still a limited population today, a massive country with just 4 or 5 million people. So it's no wonder, right? A couple could themselves declare that they are married. So This was until 1939. Now it's not possible. But until that time, the English couples, they were south of Scotland, used to run away into the Scotland and declare themselves married. Okay, no need of a registrar until 1939. Law has been changed. Anyone thinking about using that now, you're too late. So the proof. Now, when it comes to the criminal case, right, you have to either find guilty or not guilty. Scotland has what you call as a bastard verdict. That means not proven, because we don't know whether you have done it, but we are suspicious that you did it. So we think you did it, but we can't be sure, because in a criminal action you have to prove the case beyond reasonable doubt. So in Sri Lanka there have been so many famous and infamous incidents where the suspect went free because the evidence were not 100% proven. You have to prove the case 100%. But in Scotland there's this tiny area, tiny kind of a clause in the law which is called the not proven verdict. That means you must have done it, although we can't prove it. And then in Scotland you cannot be riding a cow drunk or in charge of a horse, right, or even a steam engine. Look at this. Scotland is famous for the dairy industry a lot, and the use of horses are still common in some parts of Scotland, and Scotland is renowned for steam trains. Even today, some of the tracks still use the steam trains for tourist purposes. So, be it a horse or a cow or a steam engine, you should not be caught drunk. I wonder if that kind of a law is applicable in Sri Lanka. Let's check the standards, common law standards. As I told, common law is the very foundation of the English law. Common law did not come from the courts. Actually, it comes from the people. Their practices, their habits, their traditions. Later, when the courts recognized them as good ones to be laws, the courts started applying them throughout England, later throughout UK. So that's how common law came into being. Take a look at the reasonable height aspect. You can own your land, but can you own the air above you? Well, that's not the case. So, a helicopter or a plane above you, or a kite or a, something like that above your land is not something that can be stopped by you by taking legal action. But how about someone flying a drone above your land? Well, that is a violation at a lower level. So there's a reasonable height issue. So it will be decided by the case by case basis. It could be applied in Sri Lanka also, right? In Sri Lanka also we don't own the kind of space or the land below our land or the ground below our land, nor do we own the air above our land. But up to a reasonable height above our land, yes, we can impose certain rights. Yeah. There's a case called the Ryland versus Fletcher rule. That means things that escape from our land, maybe water, perhaps smoke, maybe a dust, or even, let's say here, the bees. If it disturbs another, sometimes it could be nuisance, sometimes it may not be. So here, right, beekeeping is commonly done in Scotland and England, in some parts of Wales as well. So if your bees happens to sting the neighbor can't take legal action against you. So it depends on the ways of the people, right, how the laws come up. Next, on the nuisance, I told you, right, too much smoke from a house, too much noise. Yeah, that could be nuisance in Sri Lanka too. What about bad smells? Can be used as nuisance in Sri Lanka. Same in UK. Well, we follow the UK laws. They say, I am maintaining a really smelly, stinky poultry farm in my land. Just imagine. And can my neighbor take action? Definitely yes. Offensive order can be a nuisance coming out of my own property. this one, we call it the right of way. We have it in Sri Lanka. We could go across somebody else's land if we have been doing it for such a long time. Can't be blocked, stopped. So most of the current day paths and some of the roads have been created because of that. So since 1189, you've been doing something in UK by walking or crossing, well, that can be taken as, yeah, your legal right to walk over someone's property. So that's the time immemorial rule. One more thing, the defense, right? The reasonable force. Now take a look at this. Someone comes into your land. In Sri Lanka law, of course, there have been plenty cases. You can shot him dead and still you will be not guilty. British law is rather more reasonable there. I mean, when an intruder comes and you apply justifiable force to hit him or kind of chase him out, yeah, that will be accepted. But chase him down the road with a sword or something can't be taken as justifiable self defense. Okay, a person comes into the house and I chase him out, and then I have no right to chase him down the road also. In Sri Lanka, you may have that kind of right as well. So we have far more strict or rather loose definition of reasonable force in Sri Lankan case law. The British law, yeah, it should be your resistance. That means your right to hit back should be fair enough, right? It should be kind of proportionate to the danger that you are facing. Then battery, take a look at battery. Hitting someone is battery. Physically hitting somebody is battery. Spitting on someone is battery under British courts cases, right? But breathing on someone's neck, well, that's not battery enough. There has to be physical contact. Odd loss, right? So, the oddities in the laws do play a role in creating the realities of the future laws. Catch you in another day where I'll be discussing the fun facts of Sri Lanka law.